Hey, coming up today, we have blues musician Anthony Gomes. He currently has the #1 blues record, High Voltage Blues. And this album features drummer Ray from Korn, the bassist Billy Sheehan, formerly Mr. Big and David Lee Roth Band. And Anthony and I have a great discussion about blues, rock, being a music fan, his interesting background, the cool charity he started, and more coming right up. Welcome, Anthony. It's nice to meet you. I'm excited. Your new album, High Voltage Blues. This is the description is if BB King was an AC/DC. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I love all the nuance and the blues soul that BB King has, and I love the drive that AC/DC possesses. So those were sort of two touchstones for me in making this album.
Yeah, so you this is an album where you re-record some of your old songs because you have quite a career. You've been going since the '90s, and you just re-recorded these are like fan favorites, basically.
So what happened was Joe O'Brien, president of Rat Pak Records, discovered our music during COVID and thought that, hey, here's an artist that could be marketed to a rock world, but hasn't been done so. We're sort of a blues rock. So in that BB King AC/DC mix, we were only marketed to the BB King people. So his idea was, let's introduce your past. But I said, hey man, this can't be a money grab. We can't just remix these songs or whatever. So we got Billy Sheehan and Ray Luzier on a couple of tracks, and I re-sang stuff. I replayed guitar. So it's for our existing fans. It's not a rehashing, to me, it's almost like this is my first album, part two, so we wanted to go in that way and give this album some integrity by doing that. And there's 3 new songs, and I feel really good about it. I feel like it's cohesive too. That way, stuff that was 4 or 5 years old sounds relevant to what's happening today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a good description because there's like some songs that I feel like just classic blues. And then there's others that are more just bluesy rock, which I love both personally. But how did you, now I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Cause I just saw that right before you came on. I was reading a review of the album and I didn't even know that Ray and Billy had been on there. So I was going to ask you, how did you get them?
That was a record label. It's good to have friends in high places, man.
I guess. So the Rat Pak people got them.
Yeah. And Ray's in a band called KXM that records Rat Pak. And then, he's friends with Billy. So things fell into place and they dug the music. And I was so honored to have them on the record, man. I mean, these are such heavy cats. So
were you there when they recorded, or did they just record and send their tracks in?
They recorded and sent their tracks because they were done in 2021 and everybody was trying to isolate as much as possible.
Sure.
But, yeah. But in the future, this has gone so well, we're kicking around the idea of maybe exploring this idea some more, and maybe we could do that in person the next time around.
Yeah, or maybe even a show, like probably not a whole tour because those guys are so busy, but maybe even like a one-off show with like the 3 of you. That would be cool.
Well, Ray has said next time we're in Nashville, he's coming out and jamming. So that would be killer, man.
Oh, you're in Nashville?
No, I live in St. Louis, but
okay.
Next time we're on tour, if he's in that, he lives in Nashville. So.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So if you're in Nashville.
So yeah. And Rockets. So that'd be great.
What's St. Louis like? I've never been there. I've just heard things. I've heard good. I've heard bad. But what's your take? You must like it if you know.
I love St. Louis, because that's why I live here, because I really love it. St. Louis is interesting because it's right in the middle. So to me, it's either the most northern southern city or the most southern northern city or the most western eastern city. It's definitely a gateway, right? The Missouri Compromise went right through St. Louis. So yeah, it's a very interesting place. To me, it's very America. I think it's undervalued and underrated. It gets a bad rap in some ways. and I really see the city growing. It's had a great musical legacy. Albert King lived here, the great blues man. Chuck Berry's from here. Miles Davis, um, Fifth Dimension. There's been a lot of great music people out of this city, and I think it really gets overlooked because, well, it's right next door to Nashville and Chicago. So, it's a great city, man.
Is there still like music scene? Is there blues clubs there and rock clubs and places to go and see live music?
Absolutely. I would say it has one of the richer music scenes in the country.
Really?
Yeah. It's really cool. The unfortunate thing is, Nashville's about a 4.5 hour drive. Chicago's about a 4 hour drive away from St. Louis. So a lot of great musicians end up getting work in these cities. And sometimes they transplant there because it's so easy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there is a rich scene with a lot of really great players. And it's very, it's no Nashville. I mean, but, where that's attracted everybody, or Austin, but as far as a natural, organic city, I love it. I love the people in St. Louis. They're so friendly. I immediately was taken back as just how cool the place was and is. And it's got a real Midwest vibe. So, I really dig it, man. It's a cool
How did you end up there, though? Because aren't you from Canada originally?
Yeah, well, I've been avoiding the cops. So as they've been chasing now, I moved to Chicago for 4 years. And I wanted to get an education in the blues. And I hung out with all these masters and got a lot of great opportunities. And after 4 years of being there, I felt like, okay, I've soaked that up. I moved to Nashville for about 8 years to learn more about songwriting and be in that amazing environment. For those who aren't too familiar with Nashville, it's not just country music. It's a really rich music environment. And I mean, you can hear such amazing talent. You ever go to karaoke in Nashville? It's freaking scary, right?
Oh, I haven't done that. I've only been to Nashville twice. I saw live music ever, but I've never been to karaoke. That's a good idea, though.
Oh, dude, check, man. It's so crazy. It's it's like these ringers are coming up. Just everybody there. Half the people that live in Nashville are affiliated in the music business in some capacity. So either they work for a label, or they're a stage crew, or so you're just surrounded. What I loved about St. Louis was it was the exact opposite. I could never turn off in Nashville. If I went out for dinner, oh, there's some record producer, or there's some guitar player I know, or it was music 24/7, and that was great when I was there. But now I want to have a balance, So when I'm off the road or when I'm being creative, my friends, half my friends in St. Louis aren't musicians, and so it's sort of like that's very important, I find, just to have some sort of balance. It's really good for your art.
No, absolutely. You got to like recharge. I know for me, like as a podcaster, like I love doing podcasts and all that, but sometimes you just need to recharge and take a break. And then you come back refreshed and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. It's probably the same with music.
Exactly. And then I think as an artist or podcaster, whatever, if you don't have that break, I think you start making bad creative decisions just because you're not fresh, because, you're sort of, I won't say burnt out, but you have no real touchstone or perspective or so I hang out with my non-musician friends and we talk about stuff that has, nothing to do with music. And then you come back and you're like, oh yeah, music, this is the coolest thing ever. Okay. So yeah, that's really important.
What are your other interests that are non-music? Like, are you into sports and things, or?
Yeah, man, I'm from Canada originally, so I'm a big hockey fan, and I keep cheering for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's really just really, really sad. I love sports, man. St. Louis is a rich baseball history, and so I dig that. When I'm off the road, I try to be as uncool as possible. It's like, you know, I try to do like the most mundane, non crazy things, you know, like going for walks, grocery shopping, checking out a movie, just because I find that's really, really important, you know, especially when you're on the road and you get a lot of adulation and, you know, a lot of support from your fans, and they're so awesome. And they're great for us and to us, you know. But if you stay in that world too long, it's again, you know, nobody cheers when you do the dishes, right? Or, you know, I mean, nobody cheers when you scrub the toilet, and that's sometimes a lot harder than the, you know, doing a gig. No, I'm joking, but you know, the point I'm trying to make is just, yeah, I try to be as unrock star, and it's almost like, you know, when you're an artist, it's almost like you have this superhero thing. You're not trying to be a superhero. You just have, you've been blessed to have this gift. And, you know, to make a superhero analogy, Superman's actually Superman. And when he's not Superman, he has to put on the glasses and the suit. And so nobody recognizes him. Well, I'm not that famous that I have to do that. But the idea is you sort of have to, like, you know, I try to be in touch with my inner nerd as possible, you know, to be as uncool as possible, just so I recharge, man, you know. So maybe I shouldn't say that in an interview. I don't know.
No, I love it. No, that makes sense, because it sounds like, I mean, that's like you said, that's your gift. So that's probably how you get a high, like being on stage, and that's like amazing. But then you'll take it for granted if you're just always doing it and you don't have those breaks and the recharging. And
yeah, exactly.
you appreciate it more, because you know, if you're doing the dishes or you're scrubbing a toilet, and then you go from that to being on stage and have people cheering, it's like it's complete 180, and you can really appreciate. Whereas if you always are just on stage and always being worshipped and you know, adored, then you probably don't appreciate it as much. I mean, that's where you see these people that are on that high level that probably never scrub a toilet. Maybe they don't appreciate it as much.
Yeah, you know, and I found for myself, like early on in my career, when I wasn't gigging, I was still trying to get that high. I was hanging out at music clubs and schmoozing, and after a while, I felt like, wow, this is kind of an empty existence, you know. It's sort of like it was not balanced. You know, we keep coming back to this balance thing, but you know. I like a good steak, but you got to have your vegetables too, you know. So it's sort of like you gotta mix everything up and have the right balance. So yeah, and that's been. I feel I'm 52 now. I feel at 52, I am making the best music of my career. I am performing to the best of my ability, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. And if I didn't have this balance, I don't think I'd be able to do that, you know. And I think it really gives me legs to go, and it's exciting.
Do you think though, when you're starting out though, maybe you kind of do need to go all in a way, because it's so competitive with the music business, and if you're balancing too much, then you're not going to be able to be successful, because you do have to kind of do the schmoozing and be hanging out in the music clubs, and you almost have to live and breathe music 24/7 to get to that point, right?
That's a good point. Now, how can I say this? I'm always thinking of music. It's always in the back of my mind. I'm always schmoozing. Like, that doesn't get turned off.
Okay.
But you try to direct that, because anybody that's an artist is probably borderline obsessive, right? They're always thinking about their music, that you know, and it's important to push yourself out of that. So yeah, so maybe I'm over emphasizing the balance, maybe for my own best interest, you know. But yeah, I think you're right. Early on, it's very important, but throughout your career, you know, just trying to find ways to get your music heard, you know, especially in today's world that's ever changing.
Yeah, didn't you say that one of the biggest things that helped your career was your first couple albums you were struggling, and then your third album you took out this like double page ad or something, and that is one of the things that boosted your career the most?
Yeah. So man, one of our fan favorite albums is our third one. It's called Unity. It's sort of got the ball rolling. And I financed that album myself. And back in those days, there were no home studios. This was 2000. So I saved up $30,000 to record a record. That's a down payment on a house, you know. I bought this crappy old van so I could start touring, and it was breaking down. You know, people in the blues circuit were like, yeah, you won the award for the worst van. You know, so I did all these things, and I'm just, you know, I'm not making any money. You're playing for $400 a night, and you got to pay your band $500, you know, for all the guys and hotels, and you know, and I get this review in sort of the leading blues magazine, and it said, another day, another hot shot leather pants wearing blues rock wannabe, like something like that. And this magazine was notoriously positive, like you know, and I was like, whoa. And I was so upset because we were getting tremendous reviews everywhere. And I thought, man, whoever this writer is, I still know who he is, but whoever this person is, wow, they're not doing all these hard things. They're not investing all this money and working 70 hours a week and not, you know, living on a dream. You know, they're not doing this. And then a couple of words from somebody who maybe only gave this album a quick listen can shatter whatever we've done. So I took out a 2-page ad. I took out a loan. I borrowed money, and in the magazine that crucified us, interestingly enough. And
I didn't know that a part of it, that it was in the same magazine. Okay.
Yeah. So interesting. And you know, at the same time, we had some opening shows with B.B. King. That those tour dates were in the magazine.
Wow.
You know, Dan Aykroyd had something nice to say about us. You know, and you know, other people had said, you know, like one of the 30 best blues albums of all time, like in complete contrast to what the magazine had said. So that really put us on the map. And we were doing a big blues festival. And there you go. There's there's this magazine. It was called Blues Rock Review, and who later became Champions. And the editor is sitting there watching our show at this big blues festival. We sold 350 CDs after our gig. The line was, I can't tell you, man. It went on forever. And he was in the booth right next to me with every CD I was signing. And his significant other bought a CD too, which I thought was like great vindication. Now, he was the editor, not the writer.
Sure.
But yeah, you know, so these are the struggles as a young artist that, you know, you have to do. And nobody cares, man, when you're starting out. They don't care. It's like, you know, they still don't care. You know, you have to fight for every inch you get. And you do it because, you know, you're almost paternal about it. You know, these songs are your babies, man, and nobody's going to mess with your kids, you know. So, yeah, it's there you go. I don't think I've ever shared that story, Chuck. So thanks for the therapy, man. I feel great, dude.
Yeah, no, that's so cool, though. I love those kinds of stories to understand how people, you know, become successful, like how you get to this point where you have the #1 blues album right now. I mean, that's just it's kind of neat to hear that struggle. I think that stuff is inspiring because, like you said, you're having this junky van or whatever. I mean, it wasn't like coming easy for you at that point.
No, you know, and you know, I've always had this funny joke. You know, somebody asked me, you know, what would if they ever made a movie about your life, what would it be like? You know, and I was like, okay, here's what it'd be like. I'm playing this club. I'm a young kid, and there's like 8 people in the club, and I'm just playing my heart out. And, you know, 8 people are going really crazy, you know, and some guy comes up to me and goes, keep at it, kid, keep at it. And then the next scene, 20 years later, the same thing. You know, I mean, I've had to sleep on couches. I've had to, you know, early on, long, you know, for many years. It's not in the position that we're at now, man, it's taken a long time and a lot of personal sacrifice to get here. And we haven't fit into a neat box. I play blues and I'm from Canada. Like, that's not really the thing you think of when you think of blues. And then I like to play a flying V and turn it up to 11. So all the blues purists go running for the hills whenever we show up. It's like they think we're a degradation to the music and we're going to pervert whatever wholesomeness that music has, you know, because I do love AC/DC and I do love Ronnie James Dio as much as I love John Lee Hooker. You know, I mean, to me, they're interchangeable. It's not, I don't have that dividing line. And when I sing, you know, I'll rip off an Otis Redding line and a BB King line, and then I'll rip off a Paul Rogers or a Dio thing, you know. So whatever, and that doesn't fit in a neat box. So nobody wants to invite you to the party. Now the fans and supporters and music listeners, they're on board. So you kind of have to sort of fight the tastemakers early on and say, no, man, this is my lane. This is the lane that I want to be. If I want to play a blues song and finger tap like Eddie Van Halen, or try to be like Eddie Van Halen, I'm going to do it, man. Just because, you know, Howlin' Wolf didn't do it, I'm going to do it, you know. So anyway, that's been the challenge. And if there's an artist or up and coming people watching this, you know, early on, people are going to look at what makes you different as a negative. And that is your superpower. What makes you different is what will make you lasting and endure and rise above. It's just, you're going to have to kick the crap out of the door to walk in through it if you are a little bit different. So to any artist out there that is feeling and experiencing these things, keep going, man. Keep going. Because you're going to get there, and what makes you different is what sets you apart. But nobody likes different in the beginning.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I've definitely heard that before too, that, you know, being different is your superpower. But it's interesting when you say that it's harder in the beginning, which makes sense. But then in the long run, if you stick to your guns and you keep, you know, being true to yourself, then being different is going to be a strength.
Yeah, you know, so I mean, you know, the joke is, you know, for the industry, who the hell's BB King? Oh, no, we don't want that. That's something like T-Bone Walker. Hey, man, the BB King's making a lot of noise. We should sign him. Then the third thing is, hey, let's sign somebody that sounds like BB King. You know, I mean,
Right.
that's the journey it's got to take. And sometimes the path is relatively quickly because you have people in your corner really pushing for you, you know, and other times those people haven't discovered you yet, and you have to make a lot of noise on your own to get those people. And especially more and more in the industry that we are in today, it takes a while. You know, it took 20 years for us to get a label to really, that we felt was, okay, this is a great partner for us. This is a label that believes in what we're doing and is on board. So, you know, and then you get things like Billy Sheehan and Ray Luzier and you know, all these things that are happening to us now because this label believes in us. It took 20 years to get there. So
wow, that's cool,
yeah,
though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so,
it is.
now I was just gonna say, like, you played with a lot of these blues artists, but also you've played with the rock artists. So that's got to be kind of cool because, like, you got to meet Jeff Beck. You got to did you share a stage with Sammy Hagar too?
We opened for Sammy at Summerfest, and that was really, really cool. Such a nice guy, man. Him and Michael Anthony both were, you know, it was funny because I was running with a band. It's not my current band. That was about 5 years ago. And these guys weren't really versed in rock. They came from more R&B, gospel, you know. And so they're like, hey, man, I talked to one of the techs and they said we could stay for Sammy Hagar's show, you know, because the venue was trying to get us out. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, well, did you get a name or something? Yeah, Michael Anthony. I said,
The
dude.
bass player for Van Halen. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, this guy sold 50 million records, but
He's not a tech.
no, but as a testament to Michael, he was so down to earth and so nice. I hate to use the word nice, but he was just like a good, and Sammy was great. We got done our set. He's like, are you the guy that's making all the noise up there? And I'm like, yeah. Hey, have you tried, do you like to drink? Have you tried my new rum? He starts pouring some rum. I'm like, have I just joined an infomercial with Sammy Hagar? Yeah. And so I gave him a couple CDs and I said, hey man, here's a couple of CDs for the bus. That's the kind of, as an industry thing, you say bus, and he goes, oh man, we don't take buses. Because he flies, right? And
probably has a private jet. Yeah, he's learned from Van Halen and the Cabo Wabo stuff and all.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, man, we don't do a bus either. Yeah, we're in a Mercedes Sprinter van. But it was cool. He was so down to earth, so great. And I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of these people along the way that have been that way and so supportive and just cool people. Wow. Wonderful experience.
A lot of the legends. Now, what about? Because now you're kind of at that point where you can start helping out and mentoring some of the younger up and coming musicians. Like I just had Tyler Bryant on. I don't know if you're familiar with Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. I love those guys. I think he's super talented, super young, nice kid. Have you ever had any interactions with him or?
I haven't, but I'm aware of what he does, and I really love what he's doing, and it's very exciting, man. It's very.
Is there
exciting.
other younger bands or musicians out there that you're a fan of or that you've interacted with?
Oh, well, I have a couple of folks that are like teenagers and they've come to the show. I've got this guy that I've known since he was like 8 and his parents were fans. And now he's starting a thing. His name's Sean McKee and he's starting a band. And I've had other people that I've even given guitar lessons to, like Skyped or a couple of things or given them some advice or because I've had people that have done that for me, through the years. And when you're starting out, that's a big thing, just for somebody to take an interest in you, and it's so important, man. You realize that you're only here for a minute in the grand scheme of things. And I'm so honored to be a part of this thing called music. And my generation is just going to take it down the field 10 yards, and then we're going to pass it on to the next generation, and they're going to take it down. And that's such a cool thing. I think when you look at yourself less as an individual, and not only as part of the collective, but as part of the greater collective of a part of music as it's existed and will exist. It's such an honor. It's such a very, very cool thing.
Very cool. Yeah. So besides the older musicians and then the newer ones, and then there's kind of those ones that are kind of maybe came up around the same time. Like, I don't know where you'd put Kenny Wayne Shepherd, but I love him. Like, I mean, he's not really old school, but he's not really a newer because he's been around like 20 years or something, but you played with him too, right?
Yeah. Great guitar player. A great singer in that band too, Noah Hunt. And Kenny took the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing and applied more of a mainstream songwriting approach to it. And, sort of, I think what Green Day did to punk music, they pop in it. And I love it. I have all his albums. I listen to them. I think he's a great artist. And, the only thing I've realized is that there aren't simply enough hours to listen to all the music I want to listen to. I go to the record store and I buy like 3 albums and I go, when will I listen to these? God, it might be like in a month I'll be able to put this one on the turntable because I have other stuff I want to listen to. And, it's what a great problem to have, but it's, I wish I had more time just to listen.
That's good that you still listen to music. You'd be surprised how many musicians I interview and they say, oh, I never listen to music because I'm always in music all the time. It's like when I have a break, I don't want to who would I have on? I can't remember who was telling me they go to the gym even, and they don't listen to music at the gym. They'd rather just hear silence.
Right.
It shocked me.
Well, look, whatever works, you know, like some bands do Christmas albums and other bands don't. I don't think Led Zeppelin would ever do a Christmas record, but, you know, Rod Stewart might. And maybe the Beatles did a Christmas, or Elvis, you know, it all depends on who you are, right? For me, I am still that 16-year-old kid that, you know, my first rock concert was Dio. You know, I still listen to Ronnie James Dio. I love it. He's got a couple live things that just came out from Donington. And, you know, Vivian Campbell is playing the heck out of that guitar in 1983. And then there was a show from 87 with Craig Goldie on guitar. And that's an amazing show. And Ronnie's singing like, what? You know, so that was yesterday when I was hanging out. That's what I was listening to, you know, and I got so charged about that, man. You know, I'm picking up my guitar and I'm, you know, trying to do my best Vivian Campbell impersonations, you know, because I was so inspired by that. And tomorrow I'll probably listen to a B.B. King record and, you know, work on my vibrato. And to me, I've always tried to keep connected to that 16-year-old music fan. I think that's very important. And I had the privilege of meeting Jeff Beck, and I noticed he was just so excited about music, like, and, you know, just generally. And I was speaking with guys in the band, and they're like, oh yeah, man, he loves music. He's still supercharged about this. So you gotta be, man, you gotta hold on to that inner kid, man, that wide-eyed kid. And maybe the balance I've tried to create allows me to do that, because in my normal Clark Kent life, it's really being as nerdy as you can be. And, you know, and it's like, you know, watching Lord of the Rings and listening to Dio. I mean, that's about as nerdy as you can get, right? You know, so that's my thing, you know. So yeah, I try to do that. And I love music, you know. I just love it so much. It's the greatest thing that's ever been created, in my opinion.
Yeah. Does it help when you're creating music or when you're listening? Do you feel like it's cathartic at times, like to help get out emotions? Like if you're having a bad day, I mean, does it have that kind of effect on you? Because I know it does for me.
Yeah, playing my guitar is really a good release. If I'm having a bad day, I have to be happy or to write a song. I have to be in a good frame of mind to songwrite, or I have to be really upset about a specific thing, or you know, moved by a specific event that channels an emotional response. And then later on, I write the song when I'm in a better frame of mind. But yeah, I have to be, you know, some people, it looks like, you know, I from what I understand, Eric Clapton, when things are really hard, he writes great songs, you know. I'm not that kind of person. I have to be in a good frame of mind to write music.
So you've never tried, like when you're having just like the worst things happening emotionally, you've never tried to sit down and write a song?
Well, I have, but nobody would listen to it because it's horrible.
Really?
Yeah, it's just, I guess because I'm such an emotional person that I'm not in a place to communicate, you know, and that's what writing a song is. You know, some people that get, I just sort of shut down, I think. But I'm able to remember that feeling, and then later I'm able to express it when I'm in a better place.
So what if you're in a really good and you're just having an amazing day? Then it's easier to write like a song, and you can write like a really fun, happy song.
Yes, exactly. And then, when I was starting out in Chicago, there were certain venues that would not hire you if you were Caucasian to play the blues in Chicago. There was a strict no for years and years and years. And the reason was a lot of people were tourists and they wanted to see authentic blues bands, And, you know, a pasty-faced Canadian isn't really what, you know, they wanted to see somebody from Louisiana or Mississippi, you know. And I wrote blues in Technicolor just because I was very upset. The line came to me when I was upset, but I didn't write the song. You know what I mean? It was like, whoa, that's, wow, okay, I'll remember that, and then I'll revisit it, you know. I think maybe you write your first, a lot of times your inspiration comes from the heart, and then you need your head to finish the draft, to finish the second draft of it. So I guess when I am emotional, yes, I have all these things and I kind of take them with me to a later place and play Tetris with all the ideas when I'm in a better frame of mind.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, you bring up the race thing with the blue. That's interesting because isn't that like, explain to my audience your education? Like I don't know the whole story, but I know that you went to University of Toronto, kind of more to get your parents off your back that, oh, I'm going to go to college and get a real job. I'm not going to be a musician. But then you did your master's thesis on, what was it? The racial cultural evolution of blues music. So explain to me like what that was about. It sounds interesting to me.
Well, you know, yeah. So basically my parents were very strict. So I got my bachelor's degree and I was just killing time. No, mom and dad, yeah, I'm not going into music. No. Wow. Okay. It hasn't happened yet. Oh, I'm going to go get my master's degree. So I'm taking, you know, history and stuff. And we start talking about the blues in history. And I was like, I could write a research paper on this. This is amazing. And basically what happened was in 1960, blues music was essentially an African-American form, performed, listened to by African-Americans. By the end of the decade, it was integrated. There were bands, audiences that, you know, were tuning in. Why did this happen? You know, what happened? What were all the factors that happened here? And I think for myself, I wanted to understand, how did I fit in? Because I started off loving rock and roll, but I loved blues rock and roll. I didn't know that it was blues rock and roll. I loved Led Zeppelin and I loved Jimi Hendrix. And, you know, then somebody told me about this guy that played Hendrix as well as Hendrix, and his name was Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, and so I got into the Stevie Ray Vaughan guy, you know, and I'm listening to all this rock that's actually blues based. And then one day I bought a B.B. King album and my world changed because, you know, I tell people it's like loving apple pie, but you've never had an apple. And now you've gone to the, you know, and it's like, hey man, I've been eating this apple pie because I really like this apple. And when I heard B.B. King, Jimi Hendrix made more sense to me because I was going back to where they got it from. And man, I just fell in love. And then I bought a Buddy Guy album the next day, and I love Buddy Guy. And I just got so deep into all this music, and I just had to find out, man, you know, what's up with this? You know, why do I love this music so much? Do I have a right to play this music? You know, and then you know, I would joke and say, you know, being Canadian and white is sort of like being white twice, you know, and I'm trying to play the blues, and it's like, how is this working out, you know? So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, it's funny because you have a song on your latest album called White Trash Princess, which is, again, that's a re-recorded song. But it's just funny, that term. I remember I had written a Yelp review on a restaurant or something. I used the term white trash and it got taken down. So I'm like, yeah, so we can't say white trash anymore because I'm white. I can't use that term. So it's an interesting world we live in with the racial things. It could be touchy sometimes.
Well, you know, things have evolved and they continue to evolve. And what something meant to a certain group 5 or 10 years ago may not be relevant. You know, it's sort of like, you know, I'm on board, whatever, you know, if we want to change a vernacular, if we can't say something, you know, White Trash Princess was a funny song. It's supposed to be funny. And in my opinion, what makes something funny is if you get close to the edge, but you don't cross it. And everybody goes, whoa, whoa, but you haven't crossed that edge. But maybe 5 or 10 years later, the line has changed. And now, yeah, your toes over the line. but you know I think if we can be tolerant of understanding what things meant, and then also be tolerant to accept change, then I'm on board with that.
I like that. That's well, tolerant to accept change. Yeah, that's true, because things change, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and not to get too deep or cause too much controversy, but there's these folks that get very upset with something that they think is intolerant, and I understand, but they act in such an intolerant manner. It's like, what? No. Hey, buddy, what you're doing is wrong. Let's not do that. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think the issue that I think that it, for me anyways, that people don't do in this world right now is they don't try to understand other people's perspective. They only understand their own, and they can't understand why anybody wouldn't think exactly the same way as they do. And so I think if we all just tried to listen, and even if you disagree, I think that you don't have to necessarily agree with the person, but you could try to understand where they're coming from. I think we'd all be a lot better off.
Yeah. So I saw this great cartoon illustration. Like, let's say you and I are standing in front of each other and I draw a 6. I'll go 6 and you'll go 9. To you, right. It's a 9. To me, it's exactly. A 6. And it's like, yeah. I think
I've posted that before. That's a good one.
Yeah. I think, we have 2 things of what we should use and 1 thing that gets us in trouble. So we got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, and maybe 1 something else. And those 1 things get us in trouble. But we have two eyes for a reason. Thank God we don't have 2 mouths. You know what I mean? But yeah, we have 2 eyes and 2 ears. Use them. That's my perspective.
Well, no, and that's part of the reason I do the podcast, is to hear different perspectives from people from all walks of life. I think that's what's most fascinating about America, is like, you got people from all over that have moved here from all over the world and grown up in different parts, even different parts of the country are so different. California is so different from Arizona, and Washington is so different from Tennessee, so
yeah. Oh yeah, it's fun. Definitely, Chuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, I'm loving the new album. I just discovered you, so I'm doing a deep dive of listening to some of your older stuff too. So I'd love to see you live. Now you're going to be on tour, right?
Absolutely. We're starting to get out of the cave, man.
Okay. So I didn't see Arizona on the list. Will you be coming through this way? And if so, I don't know if you've been here before, which venues would you play? Cause I'm thinking maybe like the Rhythm Room, or I don't know.
The Rhythm Room in the past. So
have you? Okay.
I think we'll be coming back to Phoenix for sure. I love Phoenix. It's a great town, man. Yeah.
Especially in the winter. It's the place to be.
It is. It is. Yeah. Right.
Very cool. Well, look for that, so people can listen to the new album. They can stream it, or they could buy a hard copy, right? They can buy vinyl or CD.
Oh, vinyl, CD. If they go to our website, anthonygomes.com, you click on the homepage and it takes you to every place you can buy this album. Amazon, from Rat Pak Direct to get signed stuff. FYE, Barnes and Noble. It's every at finer record stores.
Okay. Yeah, great. And then I always end each episode promoting a charity, and I love this. You actually have your own charity, Music is the Medicine. And people can go to musicisthemedicine.org. I'll put that in the show notes. But yeah, explain to my audience what this charity is. This is very cool.
Well, music has given so much to me that I wanted an opportunity to give back. And if it wasn't for music, I don't know if I'd be here. I had, a real challenging teen years. And, my mom was diagnosed with paranoia and schizophrenia, and it made growing up really, really challenging. And music was my refuge, man. It was my rock. And it became the parent that I couldn't have while my mom was dealing with what she's dealing with. And she's in a much better place today.
Are your parents still together? I was going to ask
you
that.
No, they're not. They're not.
Because that would be really hard to be married to somebody with paranoid schizophrenia.
Yeah, they lasted a long time. And interestingly enough, my mom sort of the one that walked away. Just because she wanted to be alone. It's not an easy, it's not easy, so.
No, I have a friend who, believe it or not, because I have a master's in psychology, so I studied this stuff. And I have a friend who was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic, and he beat that. He actually got a clear diagnosis of no signs of paranoid schizophrenia, which is like almost unheard of. But yeah, he wrote a book about it. It's a really fascinating thing, because that's a very hard disease, because it's not a very good prognosis usually.
No. And you know, let's rewind 40 years ago. And you know, our understanding of things and society's understanding was not what it is today. So anyway, what we've done is we've given guitars to kids with nonverbal autism. We've raised money for scholarships, for music education. We provided listening stations for St. Jude's Hospital, so kids could listen to music. You know, all sorts of things.
Wasn't there? Didn't you give a guitar to a vet with PTSD that like it was like he was a nonverbal? He hadn't talked, and then he got a guitar, and then he started like talking, asking, "How do I play this?"
Yeah. So we've given guitars to veterans with PTSD, and this guy wasn't speaking, man, and so and they were giving guitar lessons, and after not speaking for a decade or something, he said, "Hey, man, can you show me how you did that?" And it was the gateway. A friend of mine said, a friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey man, there's a hospital in Montreal that has paranoid schizophrenic people in a choir. It's a choir run by the hospital, and they do gigs and they make CDs." So we raised money for them to get their own PA. Oh. And then we gave them, they gave us a little concert, and they were so grateful. And we thought, wow, we got to do more. So with the help of our fans, we raised enough money to get them a recording studio in the hospital. So wow. I'm sure the hospital hates us on drum tracking. But anyway, look, it's a small foundation, but every dollar that's donated goes directly. There's because it's a very humble thing. There's, no full-time staff. It's all volunteers. So if anybody makes a donation, every penny on the dollar is going to help somebody or something. So, okay. So
very cool. I'll put that in the show notes along with your website, and people get the new album and check the website for tour dates.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate that, Chuck.
All right. Well, thanks, Anthony. It was nice chatting with you, and I hope to see you on tour.
Yeah, man. We'll see you in Phoenix, brother.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. See you then. Bye-bye. My thanks again to Anthony. Check out his new record, High Voltage Blues. It's the #1 blues rock record. And check out his website for tour dates. This is the kind of music I love to see live personally. If you really want to experience the blues, I think you have to see it live. And I think a small venue is best, not some big festival or stadium, but a nice small club where you can sit back, have a drink, an alcohol drink or non-alcohol drink, but somewhere you can see the band and play and really observe the guitars, the drums, the bass, the vocals, and really be able to see and hear it all. I love it. I love music, and even though I can't play, I'm a fan, and hopefully I can help these artists by promoting their music on my show. If you want to show your support for the artists, buy their merch, buy their music, go see a show, and of course your likes, shares, and comments on social media help them out. And of course that helps me out as well, so it goes the same for me and the show. If you want to do those things, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you listen. Thank you for your support. Have a great day, and shoot for the moon.